Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show 1.0 call-in program that we do on Thursday nights. It's Thursday night. What a heck of a week we've had here, huh? Holy moly. So, we watched complete meltdown of all the election predictions, and now comes the fun, the fallout. So, I want to hear from you all. We have our first Donald Trump hiring. Let's see what you have to say about it. I know what I think already, but that's okay. The phone line is open. You guys can find it at kyleseraphin.com. It's kyleseraphin.com. K-Y-L-E, seraphin.com. That's where you're going to go if you want to be part of our local channel. You can also subscribe over on Twitter, if you're so inclined, which is now called X. I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed with the X. I think Twitter is appropriate. It's all of the tweeting noises, all the little birds chirping. That's what it needs to be about. All right, so folks, if you want to join us, the phone line is open. You can go ahead and call in. Let's talk about Trump hiring picks, people that you dream to fill in the administration, the places it ought to be. Let's do that one. And I'm going to have to fix, let's see here. We're going to try to do a couple things on the fly while you guys are joining us. Stand by, y'all. Let's change that. Oh, no, we can't do that. It's going to make the chat over on locals to be subscribers only, but it looks like it's not. Boom. Let's put the Rose. I'm going to fix this real quick because you're posting the number that needs to be for the subs. So we'll just post the link over there for you all. Copy the link address. It's going to be over here. Let me do a little read of an article that I read because, good Lord, this one's fun. Should I put I'm not even going to put it up. I'm just going to read it for you. The Washington Times, Kerry Pickett, who has some good sources within the FBI, some people that I know, some people that I don't. FBI brass is stunned and shell-shocked over the Trump re-election. Yeah, I almost want to read the whole thing here. The brass on the 7th floor panicking, walking around in a daze, and they are wary of a house cleaning ever since Donald Trump was declared the winner on Tuesday. According to the inside sources, some of these quotes are freaking fantastic, people. Let's see. Number one. You know the fit test? How they let the fitness standards slack on the fit test for the executives? Everyone's going to have a real problem when they start running for the door. That's part one. It gets better than that. It's a countdown for Ray because people here don't think he's going to stay on to get fired after what Trump did to Comey. Trump's going to say, yeah, fire his ass and don't let him take the plane home. Make him buy it and fly home commercial. That's pretty epic. And that probably is true as well. You get other people that say that the GS-14s are in there saying they're concerned that those above them feel like he's going to come in and smash the place to pieces, that it'll be a quote unquote bloodbath. Yeah, loving that. All of that. It's all so good. Let me read a couple more little quotes in here because they're super fun. Obviously, Trump came in and fired Comey after about 5 months, I want to say, in office, realizing that they were in fact investigating him and breaking the law. They were lying in order to do that. They were apparently off the books. Criminal investigations, allegations that were going against the former deputy director. So they already pretty much know that Paula Bate and Chris Wray's time, those got to be limited. Another person is quoted. Pretty funny. These people obviously work around the FBI. These are legit sources when they say things like this. If Donald Trump or Elon Musk comes in with his government efficiency commission and they try to do an efficiency check at headquarters, the place is going to go down to 5 people if he's talking about getting rid of a lot of dead weight. It makes me so happy. He said, if you go around and try to find a person that's actually working, that may be the actual biggest problem there, that there's zero efficiency. So that's actually a bigger threat. If you're going to try to make the government efficient, you should start with the FBI. Because if you do politics all the time, then you're probably bloated. Oh, boy. If you guys have any tips, if you're listening to this program and you want to share them with Kerry Pickett, you can find her email address. It's kpickett, Pickett, @WashingtonTimes.com. Good for her. Pretty fun. All right, so let's hear what you guys want to talk about. This is what we do the program for. If you guys don't want to chat, then we don't have to. I can go back and sit and put a kid in the bathtub. I'm sure of it. But if you guys want to call in and sound off, then let's do that tonight. Phone line is open for our subscribers. Again, All you got to do is be a subscriber over on Locals, KyleSerafin.com. KyleSerafin.com. Very easy to do. It is the pinned post at the moment. You can see Rose must have got a hold of our Suspendables logo. Rose, why don't you jump in here? And then also you can be a subscriber over on Twitter X if you are so inclined. It's cheaper there, it turns out. That's all you get out of it, though. You don't get any of the extra content. You don't get any of the extra behind the scenes stuff. We don't have any plans to do that. In any case, while we figure this thing out, I got to figure out what it means for someone to have sent me balloons. We did have a little PSA that we played for you guys. I think it was last week. And I don't know if it was effective for the White Guys for Harris, but it might have been.
Nothing accidentally goes into your butt.
These are words to live by. Anybody who works in the emergency medical field knows exactly what I'm talking about. Some people need to be warned. We're seeing an awful lot of meltdowns right now, but I haven't seen any of the threats of violence start to materialize. So if you guys have any threats of that going on in your area, if you live in a otherwise left-leaning place, if you live behind the Iron Curtain, that is just to the west of the Arizona state line, the Nevada state line, we want to hear about it. Share it with your neighbors. We'll offer commiseration and potentially a safe harbor. I just finished talking to George Hill over on Brianna Morella's show. So for those of you who have not seen that, you can check it out. We have some chats and thoughts about that. Always good to get a perspective from George. We got our first caller, and caller, you are on the line. So who am I talking to? Uh-oh. Why can we not hear you? We got to be able to hear you. Doesn't sound helpful. Stand by. We'll get it. There it is.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know why. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. Who am I talking to?
It's Rose.
Hi, Rose. The problem, Rose, is that the phone numbers, I don't save the phone numbers. That's probably good for everybody. So I have to try to guess based on area code as best I can. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the air's fresher last couple days.
Tell me about it. What was your feeling? You woke up in the morning? Did you stay up all night on the returns?
I fell asleep for like an hour and a half, like on the 5th. And then I woke up about 10:30 and I was up all till the next night.
Oh, yeah. So you went through, you got a little bit of a break, but not much. And yet still,
Right.
Despite no sleep, you're still feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm feeling real good.
What are you
guys were on my mind.
What are you most hopeful about?
I'm hopeful there's some accountability.
Mm-hmm.
I was glad. I was thinking about you and Garrett, Steve, everybody, that you can hopefully breathe a little better, a little easier.
It definitely feels like they're going to take less of a loose pot shot at us, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I saw George posted about that they're backing off about J6ers also. I think somebody in some northeast state knew their rights. Kind of like that guy that you had on the video you had on the show of that guy that was talking to the FBI agents on the stoop.
Someone else did it? I like it when they do that.
Somebody else did it.
That's pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing more.
I think they're.
Why do we like that so much, you think?
Because it's fighting back. I mean, they're going to think twice about going up to somebody's door. I mean, these 6 a.m. visits are no good. Somebody's going to get killed. Well, they probably already have.
Yeah, I think that's factual. Yeah, I tend to agree. It does seem kind of like a pushback. And also reminding these people that they should be ashamed of what they're doing.
Absolutely.
What do you think about this chief of staff choice? Have you seen this?
I didn't catch that.
Oh, Susie Wiles, who was the one of the campaign aides or one of the chairperson.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a push to get her out of the campaign to begin with.
Yeah. So the folks that I know that are in places that are legitimately conservative, places like the Heritage Foundation and so on, they obviously were pushing the Project 2025, but that's something that they've been pushing every year that there's been a presidential election. It's kind of interesting to note that they had someone push forward as this is who we would like to see help you with the transition, And Trump ended up going with Susie Wiles, who is basically saying that you're going to do the establishment game. That's what I'm told. Does that ring true to you?
Yes, it does. Did you see that push a couple of months ago?
I did. Yeah, no, I've been aware of it since then. And listen,
Yeah.
this is why I've been kind of tempering my expectations. Look, Donald Trump in office equals probably less likelihood that the FBI has time to deal with me because they're going to be tied up dealing with their own problems, which is great. That's perfectly fine.
Right. Yes.
But it doesn't mean that we're going to see the solutions that I think everybody is hoping for. So George Hill and I have talked about it the other day, but I think they got 2 years, and then as the midterms come up, if they act like bums, then people are fed up and they're not going to keep these folks around. So I had actually a kind of a funny little thing, which I'll reveal here to our call-in audience, and that is that we got some returns on the FOIA lawsuit that I've got going on. Do you recall that one at all?
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, but what's great is that they return nothing. So we've had 5 sets of returns, one saying they wouldn't give us anything. Then they went back to the drawing board. Then they came back and said, well, I'm sorry, we looked and we just can't give you anything. So we continued on with the lawsuit. And then they came back and said, oh, okay, well, what we're going to give you is a video. And the video was of them setting up the podium in a presentation entitled Congressional Investigations into the FBI in the 118th Congress, which I have very good information to indicate is very embarrassing to the FBI if it were public, because they were highly inappropriate and very unprofessional. So they gave us the video of setting up the podium, and we went back to them again and said, no, you have to give us the stuff that we want. And then they came back and said no again. And so we just got returns, and we got the slide presentation from this little hour-long presentation done by the Office of the Inspector, or Office of General Counsel. But they redacted everything except the opening slide, which has the title that I read to you, and also the closing slide, which says questions.
What's the point?
How embarrassing. Well, what it tells us is that the things in between are obviously quite embarrassing, which is what we know.
Yeah.
So
But that's what you're foying.
Yeah, but now that we've kind of gotten shown like how aggressively they want to hide it, I had somebody tell me they would like me to speak to Chuck Grassley's team, which I'll do, but you know.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know. I know you don't like him because he's old, but I've heard a lot of good about Chuck Grassley.
Yeah, I have talked to Chuck Grassley's team.
Patrick Byrne has, good.
Patrick Byrne is shady.
I don't know.
No, he is. I've talked to him.
We can discuss. I'll have you.
Yeah. Why do you think he's what do you like about him?
But he's very intelligent.
Oh, that's not. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say anything about his intelligence. That's definitely not my qualm at all.
He's backed. He's spent millions and millions trying to get all this stuff sorted out.
Yep, for sure.
His heart's in the right place.
Probably.
What do you found off about him?
He has far too many
Why do you think
connections
he's
to Russian intelligence for my taste.
He's got a Chinese connection. He's got connections all over the world.
Of course he does. Yeah, he does. And I'm fairly confident when he says that he was recruited by the FBI that he probably was, because I knew his handler.
Oh,
at
yeah.
least. I know the person that he claimed was his handler, and that person is a source handler. So that's a thing. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I wouldn't discredit what he has to say, per se, but I'm also suspicious of people that want to work on behalf of the FBI in that source world, because that's a weird game.
Yeah, he used to be a Democrat too.
Well, I think they all were historically, right?
He opened his eyes. Yeah, he's had a lot of eye openers.
Yeah, you'd have to imagine.
The last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. But he's got behind Tina Peters. He's got behind the COVID lawsuits, like especially against the military and like firefighters and all that.
Yeah, the other thing is he's gotten behind Cenk Lang and gave a bunch of money there too. See?
Can't be perfect.
No, I suppose not. What do you think about Julie Kelly being suggested as the Attorney General? A bipartisan cabinet.
Oh, hell no. Do what?
Right?
Kidding, right?
I think they want to put a Democrat in there, so they were thinking about putting Julie Kelly in as the AG. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
You don't want a Democrat in there?
No, I don't want a Democrat in there. I also don't want anybody with no experience.
Oh, that's fair. Well, I'm just reporting what Burt Macklin said. That may be a joke.
whatever he says, I take as a joke.
Pretty sure that's the purpose. But it did get our chat a little bit riled up. So, that's fun. Sorry, chat people. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just messing with you a little bit. This is what we do out here.
I caught your other Julie Kelly post, and I put up the thing about that picture of her holding that poster.
I saw that. It was very good.
Her kids' gym.
She's a piece of work, isn't she?
Yes, she is. I never cared for her at all. I never understood why Bongino was all up her backside.
Ooh.
I checked out her. I
don't know either.
Good.
She's unlikable.
I checked out her stuff back then.
Yeah, her voice is not good.
Surface.
She's like a, classic sort of rich, gross Democrat chick. She dresses in very ugly,
exactly.
Gaudy colored Chanel that doesn't match her weird skin tone and her bleached hair. And I don't know. I just don't get it. I like physically, she thinks she's a prize, just so you know. And she thinks she's fairly intimidating because she's tall. Because she's about 5'9", so she's probably got an inch on me. But I'll just tell you that women in heels don't. That's just not a threat to a grown man who, we can bench press you and throw you off a bridge.
Right. I mean, if anybody could do that to me. I always pictured her short.
Well, she has a tiny little kindergarten voice, so yeah, you could see that. I mean, it does sound like that, but. But yeah, anyway, Burt Macklin, I'm just looking at his post here, talking about.
He's funny.
He said Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner for HHS secretary, and Mike Lindell for DHS.
I met Bruce before.
Did you, Bruce?
I met Bruce Jenner. Yeah. Is that one of the tracks? I lose track of which track I was at sometimes. One of the tracks, I got him. What do you call it? Infield passes.
In what?
To come to the race.
Oh, infield passes.
I worked for NASCAR. Yeah, I worked for NASCAR.
Uh-huh.
I got them infield passes.
Do you still work for NASCAR, or you did work for NASCAR?
No, I did. I worked for NASCAR, the corporation, and then I went to Richard Childress, where Dale Earnhardt used to work. Mm-hmm. I don't work there anymore.
Okay, fair enough. Steve Friend is a NASCAR kind of guy. I've never been to a single NASCAR event, if my memory serves. I don't think so.
I don't care if I ever see another one.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wasn't running into it before I worked there, but yeah, it was interesting.
All right, you got to make a living, so.
Yeah, I turned my job in. I always turn my job into art job.
Into what? Into art?
Admin. Yeah.
What does that mean?
I used to do the catalogs. I was in the licensing department, product licensing. Mm-hmm. And I started, they used to send all their artwork out of the office, third party. Mm-hmm. And so they figured out what I can do. So all of a sudden, I was doing everything in-house, including the catalogs for the licensees.
They were abusing your skill set?
They were for a while until they wanted to give me a big raise before I went to Childress.
Yeah.
They wanted to double my salary.
It's not a bad
thing. Yeah, it was fun.
It's good to be wanted. I used to work for Warner Brothers, right? I worked at a movie studio. I was in finance for them.
Oh, cool.
And when I ended up leaving, they offered me more money, and I turned them down to take an 80% pay cut to go join the military.
That's dedication.
Yeah, they couldn't offer me what I was going to get there, which was no money and hanging out with a bunch of children and tards. But
did you ever regret that?
No, but I do remember very distinctly I was in Mississippi in 2010 at Keesler Air Force Base, and I was running with a broken leg because I ran on a broken right fib for something like 12 or 13 weeks in this course I was in. And I was running on this broken leg, which was incredibly painful. And as I'm cruising around, I got one of the instructors running next to me, who was a massive guy. He was like 6'7", freakish, like sleeved, hatted. He had kind of like longer hair, but he was in the Air Forces, and they don't care about length. They care about what's called, what is it called? In bulk or something to that effect. I have to remember the name. I used to know the regulations by heart, but I don't remember anymore. But it's if they were to basically like touch your hair, as long as it doesn't extend a certain distance away from your skull. And in any case, so he's like running with this kind of like slick back hair, and he was like he rode a huge motorcycle that was like a chopper on the way in, and he's running next to me, and he's 6'7", so he's like, he's just like basically like big strides as I'm running at peak speed. He's just kind of like cruising next to me, and he just goes, "Do you regret your decision, Seraphin? You could have been hanging out on a movie studio set, just looking at pretty girls, and you're with all these retards," or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, what do you like? Yeah, no, I don't. This is where I want to be right now. I think I did want to be there. I could have left.
You would have been a Hollywood whistleblower.
A Hollywood whistleblower. I don't think I would have tolerated that. I would have never survived into one of those positions. I would have eaten somebody's soul. Yeah, that wouldn't. That probably wouldn't have gone well. But yeah, I actually have really good memories of working at Warner Brothers. I have nothing negative to say about being there. I actually had they had some of the best food for almost no money. You'd go in there and spend like $5 or $6, and they would give you access to, like, you pay by the weight, but the weight was so low, you'd get like the most premium, like salad bar, salad bar by the weight kind of thing, where you can get like chicken or you can get whatever else. Yeah. Super affordable. What was it called? The Warner Brothers Cantina. And then you'd be sitting there eating, and then like John Stamos would be 5 feet away from you, or Willem Dafoe or something. You'd be like, well, that's weird. They'd be on the cool guy side, you'd be on like the poor people side, but like still they're just right next to you. They got table service. We had to serve ourselves, but yeah, it was a privilege. You could eat on the lot, and that's a pretty good deal. And then you watch everybody take tours of where you work. That was really weird too. It's not a thing. Oh
yeah, I know. Everybody was my friend when I worked at NASCAR. They wanted passes.
That's right. Yeah. No, everybody wants to be your buddy when you have access to something, right?
Yeah. I used to get some pretty cool gifts sent to me when I got people passes. Though I got a leather coat. I got one of those slanted workout machines. Not really machine.
A slanted workout machine, like a treadmill.
A bench. No, it was more like, it wasn't really a machine. It was a bench.
Like a total gym?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. A total gym.
Total gym. You got a Chuck Norris total gym for giving somebody tickets?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. It showed up at my office. It's like, what the heck?
That's good stuff. They that could have also. Some people would say that they thought you needed to work out more. That they were actually calling out your fitness. What did you feel like about that?
I don't think so.
No.
No, they probably thought I was just fine.
They thought you were fine. Did you use the total gym? Did you get jacked?
I did.
Okay, good. Who was Chuck Norris married to? He was married to some lady.
Oh.
That was a blonde lady.
Yeah, I don't remember.
She was pretty fit too.
I can picture her. Yes, she was.
Yeah.
Very fit.
Well, you can.
I used to go rollerblading, and I was very active.
What year is this?
Bicycling. Oh, 90s.
2019.
90s.
Okay, 90s. That would be an appropriate time to do a lot of rollerblading. I saw a guy rollerblading in Georgetown, Texas, maybe yesterday, and I thought, I don't know.
I didn't know they were still around.
Yeah, they're still around. They're still out there. Rose, we got another person calling in. Do you want to jump off and we'll see who else has got something to say to us?
Yep.
Let's do it.
I'll do.
Thanks for being my first caller. I appreciate it.
All righty. Talking to you. Bye.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
You too. Oh, and of course they just jumped off. So if you just called in and you missed the call in, give me a buzz. It'll happen again. We'll just pick you right up. Rose has dropped off. Rose is our favorite. She's always in our morning chat, and she's always making sure that she's posting things that are keeping things going, keeping the chat moving along. I think Rose is one of our moderators. She can remove you too if you get sassy. All right, caller, you're jumping on the show. Who am I talking to?
Michelle.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Are you one of the not independent, what is the word they said? Not intelligent, non-capable women that would have voted for Trump that they hate? Wasn't that the slur that they had?
No, I'm not one of those people.
Ah. Are you possibly an independent, capable woman who could vote for Trump if you wanted to, and you don't care what the Dems say about you?
Right. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it seems like they missed a lot of those. Looks like they lost out on some votes.
They did.
Well, how's your week going so far?
I've been anxiously waiting for these 4 years to go by quickly to this day. So I'm happy that it's gotten here. And we're here now.
It seems like everybody had kind of a different experience when they woke up and they kind of let it sink in a little bit. Maybe on November 6th, or maybe you woke up this morning and kind of saw. What are some of your reflections over the last 4 years, and then maybe specifically in the last couple hours as you've kind of looked back on them?
Well, the last 4 years, my family was probably one of the first where we lived to have gotten COVID. Back before you even knew COVID existed.
Uh-huh.
And then fast forward, we're getting warp speeds of vaccines, which obviously we did not want. My husband's in the military. He's since retired, but he was in the military then.
Okay.
It's been a pretty rough ride as far as everything. I mean, and I know you know that. I've been watching you from your very first, I wouldn't even say it was a show. It's like you just went out and started telling your story with your dad. I've been with you since then.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. And also, I'm curious, was your husband's retirement, was that planned or was it COVID induced?
Well, my husband actually, we were in Texas. He retired from there. We're in Alabama now.
Okay.
And he went back in, recalled. He got recalled back in.
Uh-huh.
And then he retired after the recall. He was done serving what they wanted.
Yep.
So the COVID thing definitely had a lot to do with it, and the mandates and all that other stuff. He didn't want any part of that. So he just got out. He said he was done.
Sure.
And luckily, it didn't affect us as far as, them taking things or withholding things like they've done to others, which is horrible.
Yeah, some people got really screwed. Was he an officer or was he enlisted?
He was an officer,
Mm-hmm.
a warrant officer. He was a Apache pilot.
Oh, he's a warrant officer. We like warrants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes we question the other officers, but we like the warrants.
Yeah. He was enlisted first, which I know you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I had a warrant that actually was an
and,
FBI agent with me who was also was a Black Hawk pilot.
Oh, really? Can you tell me what his name was?
Her name, I'm not going to say it here. She's still working there.
Oh.
She actually got in trouble for
okay.
being my friend, and she told him to pound sand. They said, you shouldn't talk to Seraphin. And she said, well, he's my friend, and we've gone to weddings together, and we used to work together, so you can't tell me that, so piss off.
Yeah, that's awesome of her, and I appreciate people like that, because it's really hard to be a somebody who stands up for truth.
Yeah, it
And,
turns out they don't know what
the
to do with you,
truth.
too. That's the thing. Like, you'll often find, like, they
No.
probably should have tried to get rid of me earlier if they were smart. You know what I mean? They just don't really have a protocol if you just don't get in line, which is what I think some people probably needed to learn. That
Right.
there's a safety in being unpredictable. I mean, this is the story of Donald Trump in some ways, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, what is this guy going to do
For
next?
Sure. I'm surprised all the time. I was surprised today, along with, you guys talking earlier about the choice that he put out today.
The upside is that
But,
if that person doesn't turn out, if Susie Wiles doesn't turn out to be great, Donald Trump also doesn't seem to have a problem dropping people and kicking them out.
Absolutely.
And then she'll write the book like you just,
I hope,
you just talked about.
I hope he sticks to that too. Like I want him to do what he said he was going to do.
That's right. Yeah, I think a lot of us do.
And not only that, Kyle, but it's like, do things that are going to prevent, I don't know what you want to call them that's been doing these things to us for 4 years, prevent
Yes.
them from being able to do that to us again after he's done.
Right. Like, we need to put some
I'm
stops
worried
in
about
place.
Ben.
We need to put some stops in
Yeah,
place that actually sort of insulate us from what's been going on, right?
And I'm more worried about the next 4 years than this 4 years now.
Well, sure. I
don't
think
want to just feel like have great 4 years. I want to make sure we take care of things
that's right.
so
Well,
that we're not ever forced, locked up, masked, all that stuff. I don't want that again.
he's in an interesting position because he's more dangerous because he's only got one term and he can't do anything else. And so there's no reason to go slow or soft. But it puts
Right.
us in a precarious position because there's only so much you can do in 4 years, and he's not going to solve everything, nor should we expect it, nor would anyone believe that. So the question is what's that look like at the end, and does it go, can you get the right people to follow in afterwards? It does seem he's got some smart people around him. There's no doubt about that. Listen to this little clip. This is the clip we played earlier today. I think this is the military clip about him saying he's going to fire people. And as a military spouse, I'll get your reaction to it because I played it and it made me think this is what needs to be done. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
We'll get the resignations of every single senior official who touched the Afghanistan calamity to be on my desk at noon on Inauguration Day. You have to fire people. You have to fire people when they do a bad job. We never fire anybody. You got to fire them. Like on The Apprentice, you're fired. You did a lousy job. You did a terrible, terrible disservice to our country. You get fired when that happens. Nobody got fired. Nobody ever gets fired in this administration. It's amazing. All the bad things that have happened, nobody ever gets fired. The problem is when you fire somebody, they always end up writing a book about you.
What do you think? We're going to hear some.
That's the truth.
Are there going to be some books written this term, you hope?
You know what? I am hoping so. If that's how it goes, yes. I'm definitely hoping so. I have a couple questions for you, Kyle.
Fire away. Your mic.
Who do you think he should put in, to lead or clean house of the DOJ, CIA, and FBI?
Yeah, I'd like to see Cash. Only because I've spoken to him enough to know that he knows the problems, and I've spoken to him enough and been around him enough that he's a real person. He's a regular human being. He's really not a politics guy, I don't think. Not in my experience. In the same way that I'm not really a politics guy. I'm an action guy. I actually had a conversation. Do you know who Leslie McAdoo is? She's got a decent size.
Top of my head.
So she's an attorney, and she's got she did defense, and so she's got a pretty good size Twitter following. And she and I were discussing something in kind of a back and forth on Twitter today or in the DMs. And she said, "Have you ever thought about being a lawyer? Have you thought about going back to law school? You can go back at any time, obviously." And I said, "Well, I actually had really high LSAT practice scores. I was in the 170s when I tried back in college, and I just realized it wasn't for me." I said, at this point in my 40s, I'm far too aggressive, and I basically am doing my best to be socially and spiritually acceptable. And I think being around a bunch of retarded 20-somethings and leftist professors would probably push the envelope into homicide for me far more likely than I want to deal with. So I need to not do that to myself. I need to put myself in places that are not dangerous like that for my soul. She started laughing.
I appreciate your truthfulness and your honesty, and I think that's one thing that led me to your shows and watching you every day, and also Garrett and Steve and all the others.
There's a lot of anger in our hearts, but you know what? Like we try not to let it consume us. I feel like that's the most important thing, because anybody who's been around, folks from the military and folks in law enforcement that know about violence professionally, it's not like we look for it. It's just like we know that sometimes that's the right answer, and we're always trying to not do that, which is kind of hard.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know how you have felt, but like in this 4 years, I guess my eyes have been opened to things that I grew up in a military family.
Sure.
So I'm a military brat. My husband is too, and that's all we've ever known our lives. So I guess we've kind of been like eye-opened to reality.
It's
kind of like you were with the FBI,
Yeah, what you do is
but
you lose your faith in institutions, which I think you probably had if you grew up around them, and I didn't question them nearly as much as I do today. My default position is no, but that didn't used to be the case. So, yeah, and that's really sad, honestly. It's something they took from us. I did a podcast with Andy Scheckman, who was the guy that came on and talked to us about gold and some of the frauds that get pulled. And
I watched that. Mm-hmm.
I got kind of teared up when I was speaking to him the other day because he read one of my tweets and he just kind of like laid out the fact pattern of what happened to us. But while he was talking, I realized something else that they've taken from us, and I haven't shared it on my program or on my channel, so I will. They took the word immigrant and they made it a bad thing
and changed it. They changed the word though too.
Well, they did. That's how they took it from us. But what they did is that imagine this. Imagine 10 years ago, 15 years ago, somebody started telling you, like, a friend of mine's an immigrant. They started a business. They did this thing. They came to this country, and they're so proud of being an American. And you're like, yeah, like that's heroic. We love that. And now if somebody tells you that somebody's an immigrant, you're like, oh, like somebody who broke into my country, some freeloading alien that just like broke the law and is coming here to exploit our natural resources and our kindness. And they took that thing from us. We used to be able to look at immigrants just by default, that the term itself was something that we honored and we appreciated. And now we assume it's criminality. And that's new. It's sad. I mean, it really is, if you're being honest about it, because
it is sad. It's like, for me too, it's like our eyes, my husband and myself, our eyes were open just from friends that we have. I don't know if you know who Teresa Long is.
I do, yeah. I plan on having her on soon, actually. If now I finally got the resources to make it happen.
I really hope you do.
Yeah.
She's awesome. But she was, one that, whistle blew the bioweapon. And I guess it was sad to me to see, like, not even her own, meaning her military family, didn't, turn their backs. Like, she got a lot of awfulness. And
yeah, it's the same story
that I guess was eye-opening for me. It's like I couldn't understand that.
So my thought was this,
obviously,
and I think this goes to the military as well, having been on both sides of that coin. Let me say that if they were willing to violate their oath, right? If they weren't even willing to deal with the discomfort of saying what's right and siding with people they knew were saying the right things that had otherwise been trustworthy, and they had no reason to think that this person was working in some sort of a malingering way. If they were willing to do that, like, what would they do to you? And
exactly,
it was the exact same story with the FBI.
Done to us?
Well, that's exactly correct.
We don't even. I think what happened 4 years ago with the election was probably the best thing that could have happened, not because of the awfulness that happened to everybody, but that it opened up our eyes who love America and like, hey, wait a minute, we better check back in.
Right. Well, let's
going on, and I don't think they ever wanted us to see that.
Imagine Donald Trump gets reelected in 2020, and he continues on in 21. I want you to imagine what is he going into in January of 21. There's no January 6th, so we don't have that. But what has he got?
Right.
He's got an economy that's still in the doldrums. They've got this Project Warp Speed rushing to get out shots and some sort of logistical nightmare for that. You've got an economy that's completely shut down that made no damn sense. And then, a commitment to withdraw from Afghanistan. He had some decent stuff going on, at least in the foreign policy realm, and I think they would have handled Afghanistan in a better way. At the very least, tactically, they could have done better tactics. That's obviously the case. But, he would have basically had the millstone or the lead weight, the ball and chain dragging him of 2020. That would have basically hindered him for 1 to 2 to 3 years in trying to accomplish something. Plus, he had multiple freaking impeachments that he was still dealing with, these idiots, and all they did was obstructionism. There's something powerful about the fact that he stepped away for 4 years. There's something actually, and I attribute this to sort of like the, God's plan is revealed in the rearview mirror, and that you see the straight with a crooked line. But there's a much bigger potential for this than there was that. It also revealed the fact that they just invented 15 million voters.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that I said it's talking about so clear.
How you would see the graphs of like, well, how did that happen? Where did all these voters come from just in 4 years? It's like, because when you steal an election and you rig it and you manufacture, making you look like, the country just loves you, and they really don't.
That's right.
Well, the truth's going to be shown 4 years later what it really is. And you can't change that. So it's like, how did you get so many votes then? And how was this way and that this way? And it wasn't, is the thing. That's the problem. It was never like that. They lied.
And it was so clear to a lot of people, which is, listen, I understood the anger of January 6th. Even when I was working at the Bureau, I had people that were active agents saying they wanted to go down there and make their voices heard, which theoretically they had the right to do. And I said, if you go down there, you're going to lose your job. I already knew that. Now, that was, I had other things to do on that day. I was out doing a shooting course, which is what I spend my money on at that point in time, because it's like, wow, that seems like a good idea to invest my money into keeping myself alive, and I wanted to. But It's really something when you know that there's no way your agency would actually back your First Amendment protected liberty to go do something like that. And they were absolutely going to do some censorship on it.
My husband and my son were going to go too, and then they changed their mind. And I'm really glad that they did.
Yeah, dodged a bullet for sure.
I just had a feeling that, it just didn't feel right. And you got to listen to your instincts. Even now, we cannot be like, we can't be like, let the air, take a deep breath. We got him in, he's in, we're good. We're all safe now. I don't think that's the case. I think we all need to be prepared. There will be 4 years after this. And I think if there was a way for them to have stolen it this time, they definitely would have.
Well, unless it was just too obvious.
Election again.
Yeah, I get the impression sort of that it would just have been, there was no way you could fake it and still maintain control. My buddy Sean Witzman has a much more cynical thing, which is to say that Trump has the ability to be manipulated at this point. He owes certain people and that there are debts that need to be paid. And that's probably not that far out either.
Like this, right? What deals were made behind the closed doors that we don't have any idea about?
What led to Susie Wiles being in charge when she seems like that sort of that's sort of the exact opposite of what people in the MAGA movement were hoping for. And look, it's not. I watch it from the outside, as you know, and that's not to say that I don't appreciate the guy. I find him hilarious. He's just. I feel like there are
hilarious, but he's not perfect.
No, and I think there are better standard bearers, but after they raided his house, there's no other option. There was no other option. I agree with that. But the sad thing is I think if he had just already, my personal preference has always been, and I think I'm very clear about this to people around me. I would have loved it if he had just found, doesn't matter whether it's J.D. Vance or Vivek or somebody smart, and said, this person's young, this person's got a ton of energy, this person is not taking any of the social baggage that I bring along with it. They have my endorsement. I'm going to campaign on their behalf. They're going to go out there and do the things that I would do as well, and I've got my utmost faith in them, and let's go out there and dominate this thing. That would have been a game changer.
Yeah, I love Vivek. I love Vivek.
He's really bright. I mean, I've watched him answer questions
I really hope he doesn't disappear.
No, he won't. I
really want to see him, I really want to see him end it. On that note, what do you think about, RFK Jr.? Do you think he's going to get to do some things?
I don't know, but he's a Democrat. So, I don't agree with RFK Jr. on anything except, his focus on health. But I don't even agree with the solutions he came up with. The stuff he said was we should take government money and buy you lunch or something.
No.
Like, what?
The only thing for me was the bioweapon and the exposure.
That's right. No, look, every person serves a purpose, as Garrett reminded us the other day, right? King David was a highly imperfect vessel and yet listed as a man after God's own heart. So what is that? Why does it do that? You're not seeing this, but there's balloons that are flying off behind me. I don't know
why it's there. I do see it. I thought you just did it.
It's an Apple reaction, but I can't turn the damn thing off. I thought we already did. I wonder what happened there. Good Lord. It's really dumb looking too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go find it in my settings. Yeah, no, it's going. I'm gonna go find it in my settings. It's so strange. My wife said, you let the balloons loose. And I was like, what on earth are you talking about, woman?
No. Well, I just want to tell you before I get off of here with you, before you let me go, I just want to tell your wife, Garrett's wife, Steve's wife, I want to tell all the military wives that are behind men like you that, I thank them too, because every step you take, they are right there with you. And a lot of times as a military wife, they are not acknowledged. They're not thank you. They're not really ever even seen. But behind a great man is a great woman, and I think you three definitely all have one. And I want you to pass it along for me.
I will indeed. She probably saw it. She probably heard it, and that's obviously the case in my my wife was actually a driving force and was as strong or stronger driving the sort of things that we made decision wise. There was no other way around it. It was like, should we cave in on this thing, on this shot? And she was like, absolutely not. She said, there's under no circumstances she said, what does it matter if you keep your job, but you die? And it was like,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's raising kids, you're raising kids, you all are raising children. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard job. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I homeschooled my children too, as well.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of hate for that, believe it or not. I did that when it wasn't okay to do that.
Yes, I believe it.
I
remember when it wasn't
alienated.
okay. I think a lot of, isn't that interesting how these things have come around?
I know. It's like, gee, nobody wanted to. I was basically an isolated wife.
Mm-hmm.
While my husband deployed, I did it all by myself. I had no help, honestly, really. And that's because when you said you homeschooled your children, or when, I'm homeschooling my child, they instantly thought that you're a weirdo.
Yes.
You're strange. And it's like, no, I just want to be the one that controls what my child thinks, what they learn, how they feel, what they do in life.
That's right.
I want that time with them because it goes so quickly.
Well, that's the other thing that my wife has honed in on too, which is so interesting. It's the amount of time. It's like, if you give somebody else your kid for 8 hours a day, they spend more daylight hours with somebody else. Like, who do you think they're going to follow? Who are they going to ask when they have big questions?
That's right.
And there's something really powerful.
Right.
Like, it's actually not that common to, go to government schools in American history, in the history of this country. It's still a smaller piece. And small community schools are not the same thing as something that is, kowtowing to a Department of Education. Gotta hope they get rid of that too. Wouldn't that be
exactly? I wouldn't have changed anything. I wouldn't have changed anything about how we did it, how my husband and I decided to do it.
Yep.
And I'm kind of glad that people have come around to see that having a baby, having a child, educating them, raising them is probably one of the most important, valuable things that you will ever do. And it brings humility to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you see what really is important. And you do that with them.
It's true. It's a great message.
And I don't know. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad to see that others are doing it. And I just wanted to say, to your wives, they're strong women, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate all that you three have done. And I thank you. You've helped me get through these 4 years, knowing that I wasn't alone out here.
That was the biggest thing.
Just keep it up, please.
Yeah, we definitely will. And I appreciate you calling in, Michelle, and thanks for the kind words. And I'm glad that you're strengthened by it, and I am also strengthened. It's been a strength for knowing that there are people out there that picked up the thing and said, yeah, what you're saying is not crazy, and also we want to hear what you have to say, so keep doing it. And it's like, okay, well, then I know where I'm going.
Absolutely, please. Yes, please keep doing it.
I will do it.
All of you.
Yeah, and I'll pass your message along to the boys, too. I don't know why I call them the boys, but they're my boys, so that's how I call them.
You guys are hilarious. You're like brothers. I love watching y'all together.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks, Joe Biden. Thanks, Kamala Harris. You threw us out of a job, but you threw me into a brotherhood. So I win.
Absolutely. Sometimes you don't know what is around the corner, and you just think it couldn't get any worse. But sometimes you realize that you were given the best gift that you would have never been given had it been any other way.
That's totally true. And yeah, so thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe Biden. People really liked it when I was saying it that way. I'm gonna go back to saying it, Joe Biden. I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much for calling in and sharing.
Have we?
One more time.
We haven't seen him much, have we?
I assume he doesn't even know that Trump won yet. Even though the dank brand he was supposed to give a speech, but I didn't see it, and I didn't see any clips from it, so I'm not sure that it happened.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't seen it either myself either.
Now maybe they'll march him out to that toddler.
Well, thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
It's my pleasure. Hopefully they'll march him out to that toddler desk and let him tape something at some point with a teleprompter.
Right, and yeah, exactly. And I don't even know what to say about him.
Nobody knows. He doesn't either. So that's all right. We're all in the same boat there. Thanks for jumping in with me. It's nice chatting with you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.
Okay, so we're going to open up the line here while we're waiting on another call. I guess I'm going to play this because they sent me the newest release of the KSS 2.0 promo. So that's kind of fun. Let me throw this up on the screen. I'll give you guys a little taste of what we got going on. Kaboom.
Kyle Seraphin.
Kyle Seraphin.
Kyle Seraphin.
Recently suspended FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Former FBI whistleblower.
Indefinitely suspended for telling the truth.
They say that God draws straight with crooked lines. My life is great evidence of that. I worked in many fields, from running restaurants to working in corporate finance to working as a sales guy and eventually joining the military. That led me to the FBI, where I found myself unceremoniously kicked to the curb because I had principles. That led me to becoming a podcast host, and I take all of that varied experience and try to peel back with a scalpel of truth, get rid of the narrative, get rid of the propaganda, and find out what is actually happening in the world. The Kyle Seraphin Show is going to be an exploration. We're all on the journey together, finding that truth with a capital T. It's only with a team that we were going to be able to take this podcast to the next level, and we've done just that. This is the next iteration of the Kyle Seraphin Show. Call it version 2.0. For those of you who are new, and for those of you who are coming back, welcome aboard. Kaboom. Yeah, we'll put that up on the locals, and I'll make sure if you guys haven't started following, we have a new social account that's going to be out there, and it's going to be where the podcast streams if you're watching on X. So make sure for all of our X watchers, let me throw the handle into the chat right now. It's Kyle Seraphin Pod, I think. I think that's what it is. I probably should know this more, shouldn't I? Hold on. X.com/Kyle Seraphin Pod. Kaboom. Yeah, that's it. So check out Kyle Seraphin Pod if you're following on the social media spaces and you guys want to have access to that. Looks like some of you guys have jumped on, got a little bit of traction. It started off at, it had 0 followers when we got going this morning, or this evening rather. So if you're following over there, I punched it into the X chat. Definitely make sure you're a follower. Put it over into the other chat here so you guys can put that into your social media places. There's in the live on locals. And then lastly, I will put it over here for you all. There it is. It's over on Rumble as well. So make sure you guys are following. The Rumble channel will not change. It'll still be rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin if you want to join over there. And I'm fairly excited about being able to step into something a little bit more refined. I'm hoping that we're going to give you more quality with just slightly less quantity. We'll be doing one less show a week and be using that time to kind of bump up. And the other big thing that we want to do is that we're right now on our schedule, as we have it booked out, we've got guests and I've got someone to help me produce it, which is really the big difference. If you guys didn't know, the reason why a lot of people love the interviews, that seems to be a thing that the internet appreciates, and I enjoy a good conversation, and I enjoy eavesdropping on a good conversation. The biggest issue, I guess, is that people don't sometimes show up. And so that's a challenge. And if we had to tape them, there was always either a upload or a backlog, or making sure that there was from local up into the cloud and making sure that it would stream properly was always kind of a headache for me. And compounded by the fact that people wouldn't show up on time. So with a producer and people that can go on the back end and be able to remotely store this stuff, we're going to be able to do things that I couldn't previously do by myself. And I think it's going to be really fun. I've got a bunch of interesting folks that I would like to talk to, and we've got a whole list of them. If you guys saw the Ron Coleman, the election coverage that we did with Ron Coleman, where there were like 20 or 25 people over a period of a couple hours, I've got all their contacts. I want to talk to some of them. We're going to talk to everything about self-defense law. We're going to talk about moms who stood up against school boards and got sued by teachers unions. We're going to talk to, we might bring on Milo Yiannopoulos. He's been sending me flirtatious and Milo-ish trolling on Twitter as of tonight, which is pretty fun, but we'll be in contact. And my real hope is that maybe, and I don't know if he's going to be amenable to it, but I would really like to get the original producer, the person who talked me into doing a podcast, who insisted that it be named the Kyle Seraphin Show. We'll try to get him on to do the first interview of the reboot, because he's really a special person, and I'd like to introduce you guys to him. He's one of the suspendables. He's a suspendable plank holder, as he says. If you're not following Phil Kennedy on True Social, for all of you that are on True Social, common spelling, Phil, Kennedy, Kennedy. You need to follow Phil Kennedy. He also has got some of the most based, amusing, insightful, single sentence posts of anybody that I've ever met. We would go out, and I would always tell people that speaking to me and listening to what I have to say is kind of like drinking a beer. And speaking to Phil Kennedy, who listens intently and occasionally responds with very, very poignant, sharp one-liners, is like taking a shot. So producer Phil has unmasked himself over on Truth Social, and you guys ought to give him a follow. He's got 4,000 or 5,000 followers right now. It's listed in his title as The Kyle Seraphin Show. He was always the one that produced it. But if you guys don't know, he was the brains behind the idea in the first place and shoved me into doing this thing, which has become something I actually really do love to do. So we'll take one more call if somebody else wants to jump in and talk to us. But I guess we had the ladies out. There we go. There's somebody jumping on. See, all I got to do is filibuster for just a minute. Give me one moment and we'll bring you on. All right, caller, you get to be the last call of the night. Who am I speaking to?
It's Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. 3 for 3 with the ladies tonight. Let's do it.
Say ladies night. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you feeling?
I'm great. And I'm super happy, especially after the conversation that you and I had last week about what would happen if the other outcome had happened and your guys' safety and all of that. So I'm really glad that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, we were granted a reprieve, it looks like, for at least the short period of time. I did have the body armor ready, though, so I was prepared.
Saw that yesterday. It was great. I don't know. I just wanted to call and say, that I was super happy about that. And it's because my whole family is liberal, so it's a difficult thing. I haven't been able to talk to them.
Yeah, well, let it out. Listen, you got a couple hundred people here, so it's probably more than most people's family size. Why don't you say the things you are most excited about, your biggest hopes, and whatever your most poignant anxieties might be? I'm willing to hear all of them.
Well, let's see. First is the one thing I want to say is that I'm really, really, I feel really bad for the people that are, what's the word? They follow the masses and they believe everything they hear, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's like if you only hear one side of the narrative and you don't do your own research, it's so sad, and people actually believe everything they hear. And God love my family, but they are those people. They what they hear, they don't do the research for themselves because they feel like their whole life they've been taught to listen to CNN and listen to MSNBC, and these are the truth, right. and it's so sad because, is Donald Trump a perfect person? No. Is he a jerk? Yep. Is he brash and aggressive? Yep. But you don't go home to him at night. What do you care? What do you care?
That's right. I think we can refer to those people with a lot of grace, and I think we can have some fun with it. We call them pre-enlightened. What do you think of that?
I would love to think that, except for my parents. They're older, so, how much more pre are we going to give them?
Listen, everybody's got the shot, and maybe they understand it when they meet their maker. So that's always a thing, too, for everybody, right? It's
yeah.
We'll all know. We'll all figure it out at some point. It may just be later and not sooner. So be it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is that, it makes it uncomfortable, right? You want to be able to spend time with them, but you can only kind of talk about certain topics or whatever. So that's kind of a unfortunate thing because you vote for who you want. I don't care.
That's right.
I believe what happened is best for the country. But I am one of those people that I am if you want to vote for Kamala Harris, vote for Kamala Harris. That is the wonderful thing about our country. But I feel like the other side right now is not so understanding like that,
That's exactly correct. As we talked about previously, one side, you could be pretty comfortable putting a sticker on the back of your car saying Harris Waltz, and people would know that you're retarded, but they wouldn't destroy your property. But the alternative is you could put a Trump fan sticker on there, and you could find that your windshield got kicked in because somebody wanted to let you know that they didn't like what you were about. And that is a very one-sided swing of emotions that are unregulated. So, I find that as much as that's the joke, right? The tolerant left is that they're not tolerant at all. They are totalitarian in their requirement that you jump in and do what they want and say what they think, and that's what compelled speech looks like. I don't care what you say. You can say the meanest.
Absolutely.
I had someone today. I had a British gay man on Twitter insisting that I'm using bronzer on a daily basis and that I contour my face with makeup, which is borderline hilarious if anybody knew me, because half the time I don't even shower before I jump online. I just come in here and it's like, well, you can't even see me from the waist down. What does it matter? And more importantly, this is how I look. And I'm not trying to be a fashion model. I've got good lighting. I spent some money on that, but there's no bronzer. And then he said, if you stopped your profession, then MAC Cosmetics would certainly go under. And I said, get me a promo code for that, Milo. I just find that stuff very amusing.
That's so funny.
I find it amusing if somebody wants to come and give me a hard time about something because you're entitled to it. In fact, there are people who are so confident that I'm a federal employee. So confident, They sit out there and they're entitled to their bizarre opinions. But I can just tell you, there's no way they could tolerate that. There's no one who has thick enough skin in charge of the FBI, because even with the tame version that I was when I worked there, when they came to take my badge and my gun, the guy who did it, his name was Raul Bahanda, and we'll just name him because he's going to be coming up in my lawsuit soon enough. And he also was the guy who did the spokes work for the Oklahoma City field office when they set up this schizophrenic guy who was he was being managed by his parents. He was 26 years old. He had threatened his fiance, and so she ran off. And so he was like a ward of his grown parents as an adult. Anyway, he came out there and he was really proud of this kind of thing. And the funniest thing for me was, it's like Raul, he was shaking when he took my badge and my gun. His hands were trembling, and they were ice cold when I shook his hand, because he had just lost all, flow to the extremities. He'd gone into the major muscle groups, the fight or flight stuff. It's a totally sympathetic response. And you just go, they can't even handle you just being sort of threatening, let alone lampooning everything they do, which is what we got to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then just a couple other quick thoughts. So I obviously am, I think strong and powerful women are a wonderful thing. And I think it's important for people to realize that Kamala was not that person. She's not a strong and powerful woman. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I was thinking is that regardless of what our country thinks, and if they're ready for a woman to be president, which clearly they're not, but what about the rest of the world? Like, how many countries would refuse to meet with us because we had a woman for a president?
How well would that go in the Middle East?
Where women have to cover their face. Exactly. So, I don't think that people really thought of the ramifications around the entire world of, if that had come to fruition, what that would have done to our standing in this world.
Yeah, unless it was Hillary Clinton, in which case nobody would have met with her because they didn't want to get suicided, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I just think about things like that. And I just think that it's, people are, one of the women I work with, now I work with a bunch of, I work for an attorney. I think I told you that before, but I work with a bunch of women who are from, I work with 2 Hispanic women, and I work with a Haitian woman, actually. Mm-hmm. They're all United States citizens. And I went into work the day after the election, and the Haitian woman was dancing in her office.
Of course.
And I said, what are you doing? She goes, we have a new president. And I said, oh, so it's a good thing for you. She said, absolutely. And she goes, in fact, I'm telling all the Haitians I know, if you're not here legally, get out before you're thrown out.
Okay, so this is the idea that George and I had talked about. And we talked about it, I think, behind the scenes when we were talking to Breonna Morella the other day. The great policy that needs to be implemented, and full credit to George Hill, who came up with this. He said, Donald Trump should offer an amnesty to anyone that is here illegally right now. Leave the country of your own volition. And you can leave your name and your contact information and your various identifiers with the immigration authorities, and you will not be banned if you are gone before he is inaugurated on January 20th. But if you're here after January 20th and you are found, not only will you be exported, but you will also be PNG'd from the nation. You will never be permitted to come back in legally. There is no immigration process. The only way you can come in is illegally, and we'll deport you every single time, and we'll imprison you as well.
That's great.
Just give them an opportunity to leave. Let them go.
Yeah, why not, right? Why not?
Hey, it's the easiest option. It's like, hey, it's the easy way or the hard way. It's like, you want to leave? You can leave right now. In 10 minutes, it's all over for you. So you choose your adventure, right?
Yeah. And then one of the other women I work with is from Venezuela. She's Venezuelan descent. She's from the United States.
Sure.
But she said in the Hispanic community, the amount of hate for these people that are coming in, the legal immigrants, the amount of hate they have for these people is visceral in the community.
Of course.
Like, they hate them.
Because they cheated.
Exactly.
Look, the people that came here and have been busting their ass to get an opportunity, that waited in line for, a couple years or 10 years or whatever it looks like, the people that were on a migrant, there actually is a migrant program. We actually do have a real thing that's called economic migrants. You can actually be a migrant or a guest visa holder and come in and work. and you can be doing that seasonally. That's a real thing. It's always been a real thing, and nobody hates them for that. Although, actually, the left used to hate them a little bit. In fact, guys like Cesar Chavez were always trying to keep those things down because it also was like they could pay them less. But at the end of the day, there's a real reason why having a fair system, it actually incentivizes the people who did it fairly, and you screw them over. Like, imagine working for something and then someone getting handed out the same exact thing you just worked for. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, James and I were from Cape Cod originally, and we're in Florida now. We're actually thinking about moving to Kentucky because, but
Tennessee. Check out.
I thought about Tennessee too.
So there's a project that's being built by an acquaintance of mine, and it's called I think it's called the Heartland Ridge Project. It is a master planned community for people of conservative values that will be aesthetically pleasing in the way that the left is always building out things that look nice and have nice features and amenities and so on. Trails built in, a lot of like nature and sort of this kind of thing. But for people that generally have, and they're going to have some anchor spots, but they've got thousands and thousands of acreage that they're buying up to be able to make this thing a really big thing in Kentucky. And anyone I've talked to about it has seemed pretty interested. I actually ended up sharing it with some friends of mine who are in the real estate development business, and they're talking about it as well. So deep pockets involved in the project. It's kind of a cool idea to be able to live around people of similar values so that it'll be an entire neighborhood that also will be able to determine its local politics because it'll be such a strong voting base that people are generally going to probably say that they want the same policies for their schools, they want the same policies for their mayor and their city council, that they will not adopt garbage things, that they'll be able to put a good sheriff into place. If you're a voting block of 10,000 households in a small area, then you win and you get to choose who it is, and you and your neighbors all kind of agree because you moved there on purpose. So it's kind of the idea that the left has done in gentrification, where you see a lot of, like, let's say like a bunch of gay people move into a shitty neighborhood and then they clean it up and then they take it over, and then the lib locusts all come in. This would be the same kind of idea, but doing it for conservatives. And they're doing it in Tennessee, of all places.
That's awesome.
I'll put some more stuff about it. I'm gonna have him on. I'm gonna have Josh on to talk about it. I want him to pitch the program for people to hear it. So he'll be one of our very new interviews that we do. You'll be getting one in like the next week or two. So hopefully you're not planning on moving immediately. It doesn't sound like it, but it'll just be an interesting thing to
No, not yet.
And it also should spur other people to think of the same idea. It's like, yes, let's all move in and do the same thing because we have the same values. In theory, the people who want to live in the same places should think a lot the same because they chose to live in the same place. And
absolutely,
there are a few things that are more determinate. Like there are a couple of neighbors on my street that I probably would say something and they would give me the side eye. But most of them, you tell them we homeschool, they're like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense. Half the parents on my street do that. Half the parents. Yeah. I guarantee that we have a heavy Trump presence on this. And I literally moved into this house and a guy came in when I was moving. And after we got ourselves settled, he walked up and he's moved out since then, but it was a real nice guy. He said, do I know you? And I said, I don't think so. I don't think we've met. And he goes, no, have I seen you on Fox? And I said, oh, that's a good question. Maybe I have been on Fox. And he was like, yeah, you used to be in the FBI. And I go, yeah, I did. And he was like, dude, very cool. Like, nice to meet you.
That's awesome.
It's the only time I've ever been recognized anywhere. And it was on a street that I moved to completely by random without knowing anybody there. And there's a reason why the same kind of people move there. So for whatever it's worth, it's just, it's interesting
absolutely.
Thing. Does that mean that Florida's not getting it done for you, or it's just because you're...
Well, I think there's a couple things, Florida's great.
There's no winter.
I miss a little bit of the season. I don't necessarily like winter for an extended period of time, but I do miss like the leaf changing and all of that. I do miss a little bit of that. But to be honest with you, the price in Florida is starting to be too much.
Yeah,
it's starting to be what it was up north, why we moved down here.
Yeah, it's because all those a-holes from up north ended up moving down there and run the price up.
Exactly.
Exactly. You created the problem, but you're going to solve the problem by leaving. That's good.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that does check out, actually.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to call in and just say, I'm really happy for the outcome. I'm really happy for you guys. I feel, much better knowing that the chances of, you guys being thrown in jail is significantly less now, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. I hope it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really excited about your new podcast, the way you're going to start doing it. So I think that's going to be great.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I had some misgivings. I'll be totally clear, and I'll share it with the folks that are kind of our dedicated little core audience here. I did have some misgivings about going down. It's one thing to, when I went from 3 to 5 a day or 5 a week, I was like, I don't want to do that. But it turned out it was really important. It was good for my rhythm. I think I developed and learned how to do the skill, and that was really good. And having Ryan help me go through that, I do credit him for kind of helping me find what the voice looked like, what the organization, what the repeatable piece of this podcast was. But going back down to 3 a week on the weekdays and having the one interview a week is actually kind of what I was hoping made sense. And everything kind of aligned for it to work out. We're with this group that's called Zeal. And so Zeal Podcast is going to be helping me do things that I don't want to do. I do like talking to people, and I do like sharing things that I think are being revealed on a regular basis. I mean, half the time
well, now you get to do more of the important things, like be with your kids, which
is also really cool. I'm going to get time to be a little bit more physically fit, so I think that we'll have some time to be able to engage and talk about some fitness stuff for those of us that are on local still. And then on top of all of that, I've talked to Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyle, so this is a preview of what's coming out tomorrow for those of you that are used to finding a podcast where you can all gather at 09:30 Eastern time. They're going to move their American Radicals podcast to doing that 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we'll get the bulk of it, and that'll flow into Tracy Beans afterwards, who I'm a big fan of. So there will be the continuity of that, and I'll have Steve talk about it tomorrow. The question is whether or not we can do it on my channel, or whether we're going to be able, which I may not be able to do, just some of the obligations I'm going to have with the new group. But either way, we will share it out there. I'll make sure that it's broadcast out on my X account and so on, so people can find out where to go. But if you're not following American Radicals, folks, it's AmRadPod, and you should definitely do that. And they're gonna move their time.
I do.
So. Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
They're gonna, and I think they're gonna get a little bit more current. They've been kind of digging historical. We've all kind of given each other like some leeway to do the thing that we do. Like my process every morning is I wake up and I scroll through and I look for what is the coherent line that I see. Mostly a line of bullshit, if we're being really honest. Like, what is the bullshit that is being sold to me today by all these different websites? And so that's my editorial process, is that it's just kind of like I kind of look through half closed eyes and I try to just see what's standing out as being nonsensical. And I think they're going to start doing some more of the morning news, and that means going to give me an opening to kind of talk about news of the day. And so we'll both kind of be in the same space with a little bit more commentary on their end, but I think it'll be good. And I think it's going to be,
I think that's great.
It's allowing them to develop a little bit. It's going to allow me to develop too. And I think we'll all have a lot of fun with it. So I'm looking forward to it for you.
That sounds wonderful. Well, that's exciting.
Tell James I said hello. Tell him I'm looking forward to his call next time.
He'll call.
I know.
He'll call sometime.
I know he will. I think actually we connected on a DM, and I owe him a discussion, although I don't remember if it was before or after. I was completely destroyed by staying up all night. I can't do all-nighters anymore. It's just bad for me.
I think it was election day, because he told me about it. I think it was election, and you're like, well, today's going to be really busy, so. Yeah,
it turned out to be a pretty, and we're trying to launch this on the back end, so there's a lot of editorial stuff. There's a lot of practice runs. Like, I'm not somebody who likes to go out and try out a new dance that nobody, for the first time in front of everybody. So we're working through. We've done 15 or 18 podcasts that we've literally just thrown in the trash just to make sure that we're not going to step out there and fall on our face, which is really important to me because my name's on it. So that's not surprising to you all.
Absolutely. Well, you have a wonderful evening.
Do the same. Enjoy
Thank you. And
enjoy
we'll
that Florida night. Yeah, and we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a lovely night.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.
And I think that's going to be it, folks. I think we're going to shut it down right there. That's a good little positive note. Again, we're pretty excited about doing this 2.0 thing. If you're just joining and you haven't seen this before, we do a podcast usually every morning at 09:30, and tomorrow will be the last 09:30 Eastern time, 8:30 in Texas, America podcast that we do. It's going to be moving to release at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is 4 p.m. Central, and we're going to be doing that 3 days a week, starting on 11/11, which is Armistice Day, and that's an important day. Pretty excited about doing that. And you guys will see, I think we're going to try to up the quality. We're going to tighten it up so it's going to be more shareable for those that don't always have an hour and 11 minutes or whatever the heck it is that I end up rambling on about. We're going to try to keep it tight and focused. And we've got an editor to be able to kind of help me clean that stuff up in the post. So you guys are going to be able to see just a really clean product. Very excited about being able to do that. And that is it for tonight. So stick around in the morning. Make sure you're following this channel. Make sure you're following my buddy Phil Kennedy. Make sure you are following Kyle Seraphin Pod if you have a X account. If you are out there doing that, we'd love to see you over on that, and we'll be interacting there as well. Have a lovely evening. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you with Steve Friend in the morning.